On this week's episode of the Best of Johnston County podcast, our guest is County Commissioner Mike Rose. Mike was on with us back in March of 2025, and now he's back as he is now running for re-election. We asked Mike, why does he want to be elected to a full 4-year term on the Board of County Commissioners? We asked him about the budget process last year, the reevaluation, and how they came up with the tax rate they set. We also talked to him a little bit about economic development and why he thinks he is the best candidate to be on the board for the next 4 years. So if you're interested in any of these, listen in.
Welcome to another episode of Best of Johnston County, brought to you by Breeden Law Office. Our host, Jonathan Breeden, an experienced family lawyer with a deep connection to the community, is ready to take you on a journey through the area that he has called home for over 20 years. Whether it's a deep dive into the love locals have for the county or unraveling the complexities of family law, Best of Johnston County presents an authentic slice of this unique community.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Best of Johnston County podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden. And on today's episode, we have County Commissioner Mike Rose. He's back for his second visit on our podcast. This time, he's back to talk about his campaign to be elected to a full 4-year term to the Board of Commissioners, representing, I believe, District 3, which is like Princeton and Benson and that part of the county. He was appointed to the board to fill an unexpired term. He's been on the board now for a little over a year, so he's learned a lot. He was with us back last March when we were in the middle of the reevaluation process. So we're going to talk to him a little about everything he's learned in the last 8 or 9 months and why he thinks you should give him his own 4-year term on March 3rd, 2026. But before we get to that, I'd like to ask you to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast, wherever you see it, whether on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, or the other social media channels of the Best Johnston County podcast. The Best Johnston County podcast comes out every single Monday and has now for over 2 years. So go back and listen to some of our previous episodes, including the original one with Mike Rose, Congressman Brad Knott, when he was campaigning, Chris Johnson, Economic Development Director. We had Adrian O'Neill, the current County Parks and Rec Director, twice. So a lot of great guests have been on over the years, well over 100 episodes now. If you love Johnston County as much as I do, this is the podcast for you. Welcome back, Mike.
All right, thanks a lot.
I appreciate you coming back. But for everybody who doesn't listen to every episode, which is like 3 people,
yeah.
Me, my wife, and a neighbor friend of mine. What's your name? What do you do?
Yeah, my name's Mike Rose. I am County Commissioner for District 3. I'm from Princeton. I was on the town council in Princeton before that and have been appointed last December to the County Board of Commissioners and have been serving as ex officio member on the I-95, I-40 Alliance, which has done a lot of great things, was very instrumental in the Workforce Development Center down in 4 Oaks, and also bringing Vulcan to Johnston County. Serve on the Heritage Commission, which is completely different, but really nice to see how we are preserving our history here in Johnston County, and also on the Sports Council. So there's a lot of duties. There's been a lot of meetings this year. I think we're well into a couple hundred meetings this year. Yeah,
you go to a lot of meetings. Yeah. I know. I don't think people understand how much work it takes to be a county commissioner, because you have the regular commissioner meetings, which are 4 a month at least. There's 1 in the morning and 1 in the evening, twice a month. And then there are the commissioner subcommittees. And then you're on all these other committees, whether it be the health board, whether it be the community college board, whether it be, there's tons of heritage commission, whether, you're all on at least 1 or 2 other boards other than just being commissioner. It is a tremendous amount of work, and you don't get paid very much money to do it. But it's back to your history. Like, you used to be a school teacher. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, where you went to school. I know you're an NC State guy.
Yeah. So if you're from Johnston County, you would appreciate this. I started, my first job was when I was 11 years old. I was born in tobacco. And it was one of those things where if you were a kid, you wanted some school money, you needed to go out and get a job. And so a lot of us, in fact, most everybody I worked with was 11, 12, 13 years old. I stayed in the tobacco field until I was 17 and got a real job. And outside of the tobacco field, I say real job, but I'm kidding. So it was nice to get some air conditioning in that first job when I was 17. But besides growing up here in Johnston County, my first job after college was being a school teacher. Also had a little break in there and went out to Griffles, which was Bear at that time. Did a year out there and worked in production and fractionation department in the -5 Celsius cold temperatures. It's a hard job, but very rewarding. Then started my own business, and 30 years of my own business now, and running a small business and being successful here in Johnston County can have its own challenges, and especially in a small town like Princeton, whereas if the entire town is just over 1,000 population, and we've grown and made it through Great Recession in 09 and 010 or 2010, and made it through some hard times. But like I said, 30 years this year.
What's the name of the business? It's a t-shirt business.
Yeah, quick shirts.
Right. You make t-shirts and hats and pins.
That's right.
Anything you can brand for your business.
Anything promotional items, but wearables primarily, like embroidered items, corporate items for hats, polo shirts, jackets, and then screen printed t-shirts for 5Ks and events and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So how many employees do you have?
6.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I know they largely run it now because you're mainly a county commissioner.
It has been. It's taken a lot of time away. In fact, I added an employee last year when I got this because I was having to be gone so much. So it is a situation where a lot of people may think that we've got it made here being a commissioner, but I literally have to hire an extra person because I'm gone so much. So it actually costs me money to be in this position. But yeah, besides teaching, I went over to Afghanistan for a year. After the big recession in 09 and 2010, times were hard, and there were a lot of bills to pay. And there was a job I took over in Afghanistan to kind of catch up for a year, and it was very rewarding. Worked as an Army contractor on a base right outside of Kabul for a year, so that was very interesting. And then came back, was on Princeton Town Board for 11 years before I got this position with the county. So I think that if you roll that all up, my resume has a lot of things that people can resonate with in the county and realize, that I'm not in it for any other reason than just because I love Johnston County and have a good life experience to draw from.
Well, and you've earned what you've earned, and you've got a lot of great experiences being a small business owner and an elected official for many years of the Princeton Town Board. I know you were very happy and had a big smile on your face at the ribbon cutting of the new library there, the community building.
That's right.
I know you worked hard on that for many years.
We did. We started that project before COVID, and at that time, we had purchased that building in front of the Lions Club years ago for a fraction of what we paid. I think about $17,000. They owed some money basically and just wanted to get out from under it. So we took it, and we're planning on putting some paint, maybe some new sheetrock, and fixing it up a little bit. And our vision kind of grew because it was not a very attractive building. And we decided we needed a home for our public library that was sharing a space in the Princeton High School. And so the vision grew, but so did the budget, and it had eventually became seemingly unattainable. And we were able to get some grant funds from the state, and a lot of local people donated money, and we wound up kind of scaling back our grand idea, simplifying it a little bit, but come up with a great building that serves the community, and we're able to do it with no financing. So that was a big plus, because we even on the town board, I think all of us agreed that we wanted something great, but we didn't want to put our taxpayers at a burden for a long-term debt. So we were able to do that.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I know that the taxpayers in Princeton, you were not on there, but they didn't get a budget neutral budget this year, and probably it was a significant tax increase, much more significant for the Princeton town payers than what the county did. I know that you weren't on that board then, but I would love to have the mayor come on and talk about that. But anyway, because I mean they really left the rate close to the same as it was, and the taxable income in Princeton went up about 70%. Selma also kept the rate the same, as did Benson, which caused basically 100% tax increases for them. I think Princeton kept it almost the same, so close to 100% tax increase for the citizens there in Princeton, which I think is a lot. I'm not elected in these places. It is what it is. But let's talk about what the county. You did vote for the county budget.
Yep.
The county budget essentially created a 20% tax increase for most of us. The tax rate was cut significantly. Taxable income had gone up 70%, and the budget ended up being about 20% more than the previous year. Explain that process. You were in the middle of it last time, why you thought that was a good budget, why we needed that extra money, and where we go from here.
Okay. So, I would have to say that this was the hardest budget I've ever had to work with in any of it. The town budget was difficult a lot of times, but when you take away 2 zeros, every dollar counts. I mean, and it does in the county as well, I should say. But when you're looking at a budget in the town was a little over $3 million, and now we're looking, north of $400 million with the county. It's a lot. But we did go through it, and we looked very hard at everything that we could. And in this situation, when you had a reval, so I kept thinking about my parents and other older people that I knew around the county and how it was going to affect them. And unfortunately, there was no tax rate that we could set that was going to affect everybody equally. And I actually did a little bit of math today, so I brought a little bit of cheat sheet here with me. So I had my parents, for example, I won't use their value. Their house before the reval was $147,000, and after it was $350,000. Okay,
right.
That was significant. All right. So if we had been able to set the tax rate before that was 67 cents, for them to keep a revenue neutral, a same tax rate, we'd had to drop it to 28 cents. So to keep them paying the same. And at that rate, 28 cents, we would have had a shortfall in the county government over $100 million. So you see what we're coming up with, the problem we're having. I had another family member that their house went from $47,000 tax value to $179,000 tax value. And she couldn't really argue that was not accurate because that's how much she paid for the house. So, in that situation, I think that we would have had to get the tax rate down to 17.6 cents for her not to have seen a tax increase. So when people say that we increased the tax, yes, the overall number did go up. There were according to our tax office, about 10% of the people in the county did see a decrease, an actual decrease. And I would like to remind everybody too, that our county commissioners, including me, pay more. I pay more this year. I think my taxes, because of Princeton's and the counties together,
went up
about $1,500. So it's significant, and I get that. But what we saw in 2019, well before I was on the board, is we had a revaluation that pretty much hit the western part of the county, and it didn't really affect the eastern part of the county, which is my district. And now that growth is gone that way. And although we can say it was the tax office that assigned that value to the house, it was, and you and I both know it was the market that assigned that value, and that the tax value just put the number on it. But the market was what drove that. And I urge anyone who feels like the number that was assigned to their house was not accurate to appeal and get it right. Yeah.
I did appeal mine, and I won. Yeah. Shockingly enough, I won the appeal, but I was very fortunate. Yeah. I had gotten an appraisal. I think I told you this last time, to get a refi, to get a home equity loan on my house. So I just sent them the appraisal, and they agreed with it. But it only went down like $25,000. It was close. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I saved like $50 or something. Every little bit helps. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, yeah. But I mean, the county budget has gone up from 2019 to now. It went from $240 million to $420 million. Mm-hmm. I don't know if people realize that, but like it's gone up $160 million in 6 years or something. Some of that's inflation, some of that's growth, but I mean that's a lot.
I have more paperwork there.
Yeah.
So of course, now I wasn't on the board. I'm not throwing shade on any board prior, but I will also say in the 2019 to 2024, the tax rate also went down. So in 2024, you paid less out-of-pocket money than you did in 2019, because the county commissioners, because of the growth in the county, were able to lower that rate. So it went from 76 cents to 67 cents during that amount of time. So that seems to be forgotten a lot of times, that people were actually paying less each year. And so there was a kind of a correction, but a lot of that correction was due to just some failing infrastructure, some buildings. For example, our courthouse hasn't been updated in about 50 years. You can imagine how many court cases are going through the court system now compared to 50 years ago.
I know. I've been here for 25 years, and I think the courthouse addition was built in the early 90s, and nothing really has been done with that since it was built. And you think about how much bigger Johnston County is now, and the original courthouse goes back to the 1800s, you know, and so it's a lot. You're right. And look, the county has $1 billion with a B building needs, not counting schools.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people realize listening to this.
Yeah.
It's $1 billion with a B. DSS needs a building. We just got a new jail.
Mm-hmm.
We need a county administrative building. The tax office needs more room.
Mm-hmm.
We need more courtrooms.
Mm-hmm.
Believe me, we need more courtrooms. The district attorney needs more space. We have a brand new public defender. She needs more space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need more judges. But part of the reason we can't get more judges from the legislature is we don't have the courtrooms for them to hold court, to do the work if they were given, if the legislature was to give us more judges.
And they can't pass a budget.
Right. I mean, and the legislature at this point has not passed a budget.
Yeah.
So, and now you've got, as you were just at a county commissioner meeting where the county clerk of court is there asking for county money to fund state positions in the clerk's office because the legislature hadn't passed a budget, and she's got all this growth and she's trying to deal with it. So, I mean, it's just, we had the same problem with the DAs a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot. Tell the public some of the things that are in that billion with a B buildings that the county needs today that it's going to have to build over the next 10 years.
Yeah. So on that, before I go there, Michelle Ball came to us today and was requesting 11 positions, and those positions would be roughly $1 million, roughly per year. And she doesn't want them all at one time. She wants to phase it in. But that's $1 million that we're paying state taxes that should be coming from Raleigh.
Correct.
So for the county to fund that, what we have to do is look and see, at the end of the day, we want to serve our constituents. We are in the customer service business. We want our customers, which are our county citizens, to have the best possible service that they can. So do we have to pick up the slack sometimes when the state drops the ball? In the past, we had to do it with the DA's office. And so, right now it's no vote was taken today, but it is under advisement and we're considering it. But back to the buildings. Yeah, when you look at the courthouse now, it is packed with administration, with tax office, with so many things that aren't court related, and they desperately need space. In fact, we were being threatened with lawsuits if we don't give them some more space. So part of that building process is going to be to build some more court space. So we've acquired a property next to us, which was known as the old mast building. And so there will be in the foreseeable future, some court space built up there, maybe a 3 or 4 story building, a lot of details to be ironed out there. DSS right now is packed to the gills in 5 separate buildings, a few that we're leasing, and we're trying to get all that centralized into one location. That's another huge, I would imagine the 2 of those together, just off the top of my head, are probably $250 million. And then you've got the school needs that you were talking about. Right. Clayton High School is coming up, and they was chosen in previous boards not to have a bond referendum. But that goes back to one of your questions about why is the budget having to be increased. Well, part of it is because voters passed bond referendums for schools and buildings, and now that debt service is coming due over the next couple of years. Right. It hasn't been paid yet, and so as those debts are coming to fruition, we'll have to have money in the budget to pay those debts back that the voters have approved. And so another thing that also often will come up is about the fund balance. Why is there so much money in the fund balance?
I agree.
I've heard
you
say that.
You've heard me talk about that.
And so I had somebody ask me that the other day who was actually a supporter and said, "And I have to ask you about the fund balance." And so it's kind of like this. If you were going to buy a house and you went to buy it and they said, "How much money do you have in the bank?" And you said, "Well, I don't have any money in the bank." They're not going to loan you the money for that house, And so in our situation, there's going to be a lot of needs. And like you said, when it's nearly $1 billion in needs over time, we're not trying to do this all at once. You've got to have some money to start off with, because credit agencies, the LGC is going to look at you and say, do you have the ability to pay this loan back if you're borrowing $130 million, for example? And so having money in the fund balance, number one, gives you seed money to start up so that you've got money to actually put into the project. And then also after that, we just sold a bond recently and we got a $9 million bonus, basically money back, because with a AAA rating that we just received last year, because of our strong financial situation, we're able to borrow money at a lower interest rate than municipalities or counties that don't have that lower interest rate. Plus, people are competing to loan us the money and gave us $9 million back that we can put toward debt service. So the county's in a really good financial situation, but over time, and this is what citizens don't see a lot of times, and maybe we should do a better job, is when you look at a 10-year projection or 10-year model, you see that fund balance dropping down because it's going into these capital needs projects. And that's why the money has kind of been put there for these needs that need to be done. And so if you started these projects with a low number, and the LGC will send you a nasty letter once your fund balance starts dropping below 20-25%. And so we see that number dropping, but still to a healthy number. And that ties back into that rate we set. We were trying to pick a rate that was as low as possible, that would be as painless as possible to our citizens, to grandma that has been here for 50 years, that doesn't want anybody to move here. We get that. There's those people, and so we need to try to set a rate that could be just as low as possible, but could still fund the government, the county government, provide the services, the schools, the sheriff's department, everything at a quality level. And I am praying that this year, when it comes budget time, that number can either stay the same or go down. But we didn't want to shoot too low, because if we shot too low and then had to go up next year, that would be horrible. And so I think that the number right now, as the revenue's coming in, is looking like a pretty solid number.
Well, that's good. That's good. And, I've always thought the fund balance, it was like, was it 40%?
It was closer to 50. Yeah.
Right. I just thought it was too high. I understand the AAA bond rating. I understand needing to have savings. We all like to have savings. I'm a small business owner. You're a small business owner. I get it, but I thought it was too high given what else we were trying to do. I don't have a vote. I'm not in there, but I am happy with some of the things y'all have been able to do and some of the projects that are coming.
Have family law questions? Need guidance to navigate legal challenges? The compassionate team at Breeden Law Office is here to help. Visit us at www.breedenfirm.com for practical advice, resources, or to book a consultation. Remember, when life gets messy, you don't have to face it alone.
So why should the voters give you another 4 years? Why do you want to do this another 4 years? You're 14 months into it.
Yeah.
It's 2, 3, 4 meetings a week.
Yeah.
You got to come out here and talk to people like me.
Yeah.
You're in parades and fire departments. You're everywhere. Why do you want to do this for another 4 years?
So that's a good question. And I think I was thinking about, somebody else asked me that question recently. And I think it's kind of the satisfaction of seeing things completed and seeing things done. It's like if you've ever bought furniture from IKEA, putting it together is no fun. But when it's all done and you can look at it and go, I did that. I completed a task. I made this thing a little bit better. That's the satisfaction that you get out of it. There's a personal satisfaction of, you see the people who sit on the sideline and they gripe about everything. And then there's some that just want to roll up their sleeves and try to get it done. And that's me. I just feel like with the town background that I had, and like I said, my life experiences, I just want to have a good common sense Johnston County approach that, we're going to try to make our county as quality of life friendly as possible. And so that's why I run for it.
Well, so everybody wants to talk about the growth, right? We've got the different factions. You got me that wants to see as much growth as possible. I understand that there are housing shortages in this area because I'm dealing with people that have to find housing because their marriages are falling apart or their relationships falling apart. And I know how hard the housing can be, and I know how expensive housing is. And I think we need more housing because we've got too many people. There's the other side that thinks we shouldn't have any more houses. So the drawbridge, I'm here, draw up the drawbridge. Nobody comes here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I know Bill Stovall is in that camp. He's on the board of commissioners. But where are you at on that? Because we're getting ready to get a new uniform development ordinance, a UDO that's been in development for years. Hell, it was in development before you got there. Now it looks like it's about ready to be passed in the next 60 days. Presented. Yeah. Where are you at on that?
Yeah. Good question. So growing up in Johnston County, I grew up in a time where we would ride on the back of the tailgate. I can remember as a kid us meeting at the Little League Park in Princeton and getting on the back of one of our dad's pickup truck and riding all the way to Corinth Holders to play Little League in the back of a pickup truck. It was all of us. And then parents would drop you off and you get on there, you take your glove, and because there was 2 team bats. It wasn't like today, everybody's got a bat bag and everything. It was 2 bats and 1 glove. And so, so I've seen the growth. I grew up, like I said, barn and tobacco and riding the rural roads. And it does hurt your soul to see just houses popped up in those fields and the kind of growth that is happening in some of those places. But having said that, I'm a realist and I understand that there's a balance between what government should do and what private owners should be able to do with their land. And so it is not the county, to me, or the county government who's making houses appear or businesses appear. Private owners have land and they are willing to sell it. And so we have to work with those owners so that we can guide our county and make sure that we've got infrastructure to cover these things, and that we've got, of course, we don't do roads, but we do work with DOT to try to make sure when there are issues that they're worked out, and schools in place and those things. So where I'm at on that is I'm a realist. I realize that the county is going to grow. And so I just want to be a part of trying to make sure that it grows in a proper way, and that we're not, some people will say unbridled growth or something like that. That's not the case. That there's growth, but it's responsible growth, and it's growing in a smart direction.
Well, and I think we've done a pretty good job of it, I believe, as a county. I mean, it's a very good place to live. Mm-hmm. People want to be here. You know what I mean? I go back to what you were talking about. We're talking a little bit about economic development, and so the last question, the commissioners have been very proactive in economic development. Mm-hmm. I was on the Economic Development Advisory Board from 2020 to 2022. One of the projects I worked a lot on was the building that was going to be that spec building in Benson that's now going to be Vulcan. Mm-hmm. You talk about getting pride, right? Like here I am. I'm in these meetings. I can't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. We don't know what it's going to be, but I'm like, we got to try to get this space because it could be anything. Mm-hmm. And who knew it would become one of the leading. I mean, you talk about national safety, right? Like we do about Vulcan and precious metals and what China's trying to do in Benson. And I get to now say I had a very small part in it on that board with Chris Johnson and Ed Aldridge and all of them in getting that project to where that building is there and now Vulcan can move into it. So I know what you're talking about, but talk about what the commissioners do from an economic development standpoint, and understand that these grants and stuff are not the county giving money away like I used to think they were, and what you think the county can do to get more economic development if you're reelected. Or elected for a 4-year term.
Sure. So EDIG grants, economic development incentive grants is what they're called. And those EDIGs come to us from time to time. And there are specific parameters that a developer or an industry has to meet to get the grant. Well, the grant, it is a grant, but technically it is only a portion of the tax that is paid in. So we had a constituent that had read the budget and saw several $1 million in the budget for EDIG grants. And so they were quizzing us about that, and rightly so. It does look, it's in the budget, millions of dollars going out, but what you got to look on the revenue side and see that was way more millions coming in. And so it kind of begs the old question of like, would you rather have 50% something or all of nothing? And that's the way EDIG grants work. So if you got a company that's coming in and they're going to build a $100 million facility, so a lot of times we're competing with Ohio, just like in Vulcan. We were competing with other states for these positions, and they're looking for the best deal because bottom line, they're trying to make a profit. But we're not incentivizing it in that your property tax dollars or my property tax dollars are paying for that. When they come, they pay their full amount based on whatever their property value is, and they have to meet. And if they don't meet their employment goals and they don't meet other goals, then they don't get that grant back. And so that grant could be 50%, it could be 35%, it could be different amounts based on what our economic development team decides would be the best to get that project on board. But I just want everybody to understand that it is not your tax dollars. It is literally a portion of the property tax of that new company going back to them as a grant. And it stops usually after a short period of time, 4 or 5 years, and then over the next 40, 50, 60, 70 years, they're paying that full amount for them ever.
Well, that was the part I used to forget. And I used to give the commissioners grief about these incentives because I didn't completely understand them. And I think they ended up putting me on that board so I would leave them alone. But I did begin to understand that sometimes the grants can be up to 7 years in Johnston County, but you do get the building forever. You get the jobs, you get the equipment that's in it. They're usually not getting tax breaks on that. So it is a good thing, and it does bring more jobs. And we're trying to turn these cars around, as Chris Johnson says, and have more jobs in Johnston County instead of having so many people going to Wake County. And then these industries, of course, build the tax base. They don't, the buildings don't go to school, and the buildings don't need DSS, and the buildings don't go to the courthouse. And that's how you can do it. And I know houses can be a losing money proposition the way county government is structured in North Carolina. But that is how you get more commercial. That is how you get more buildings. It is how you get more of the restaurants people want and stuff like that. Is you got to have rooftops, and have rooftops, you got to have jobs. And I mean, it's a complicated mess. But I can tell you what, the vast majority of counties would give their right arm to have the problems that you deal with every day. The fact that we have to come up with all this and we're managing this growth, because there are places like I'm from in Scotland County that are closing schools because they don't have kids to go to them, that are having to lay off staff. They're having to, their clerk's office is getting smaller because they have fewer filings at the courthouse. Like these are all good problems to have, in my opinion.
I agree. I've been in a lot of meetings over this past year with commissioners from other counties, and to hear those things like, if we lose 4 more kids, we're having to close the school, or our hospital's closed, and now we've got to drive, an hour and a half to go to the nearest hospital. Those are the kind of problems we don't want to have, and we're not having, thankfully. So we say it all the time. We're thankful to live in Johnston County. Yes, we have problems. Yes, we're working on them, but we'll take our problems over their problems.
Well, no doubt about it. But last question I ask everybody: what do you love most about Johnston County?
Well, of course, everyone says the people, and that's the easy answer. But it's true. It's true. The thing that I have done that's probably most enjoyable this year is just meet so many people from around the county, and I love not only people, but I do love its proximity to everything from our farms that are still here in the county, and I love to our amenities, to where our areas are growing up, our municipalities are growing up, and I've heard a lot of people say, why can't we have nice things? Well, we're getting those nice things, and I like to see those. And the more that we can get those nice things, those shopping centers, those things, that's sales tax revenue. Sales tax revenue displaces property tax revenue. So the more we can get those things, tourism dollars, sales tax money coming and being generated, and we're not driving to Wake County to spend money across the line in Garner and so forth, and we can spend it right here. That sales tax money, 2% of that sales tax money comes back to Johnston County and stays right here.
You're absolutely right. And the growth, and we're getting more commercial growth. I mean, you just look at what Adventure Development is doing there in Selma with all the new restaurants and the Target and the new Chick-fil-A there and everything. It's really, really good. And now we're going to get the big commercial development in Clayton with what probably is going to be a Costco there near the ABC store on 70 and all of that stuff. I mean, it's coming. I mean, if you've been waiting for restaurants and stuff like that and waiting for some of these big box stores, there's now a Target in Selma. Like it's coming to Johnston County, and it's coming there because we now have the rooftops and the average income levels to support that. And, a lot of that's been due to good planning and stuff by the commissioners. But anyway, Mike Rose will be on your Republican primary ballot on March 3rd. Early voting starts February 12, 2026. There's 3 people running for this seat: Chad Stewart, Adam Caldwell, Mike Rose. They will be in the Republican primary. There is no Democrat. So if you're an independent or a Republican, you can vote in this primary. This will be the election. There are no Democrats running against them. So whoever wins this primary will be elected for another 4 years. Whether Mike wins this election or not, he will be your county commissioner till December the 7th, 2026, as he's going to fill the unexpired term that he was appointed to in December of 24. Well, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, go to electmikerose.com, and from there we have links to our social media and phone number and emails and all that kind of stuff. So just go to electmikerose.com.
All right, electmikerose.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Jonathan Breeden.
That's the end of today's episode of Best of Johnston County, a show brought to you by the trusted team at Breeden Law Office. We thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to sharing more interesting facets of this community next week. Every story, every viewpoint adds another thread to the rich tapestry of Johnston County. If the legal aspects highlighted raise some questions, help is just around the corner at www.breedenfirm.com.